till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shia Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dagger for a Sightblinder. May you find shade this day. And it's hard to imagine a place with more shade than Kenobi's life right now. Wouldn't you agree, Sarah?
I would agree. What a great little transition.
Thanks. Yeah, my little transition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I feel belittled or not. I mean, you did little it at the very least.
Well, I didn't mean to belittle you. That wasn't my goal.
You're like, oh, that intro was cute. You know, I'm like, oh, I feel like crap now.
I said it was great.
I know you did. I'm just kidding. So, all right, it's kind of a weird transition right now for us because we are currently transitioning from talking about Wheel of Time books, which are wonderful, and yet we're going to like another corner of nerddom, but it's pretty dramatically different, and I'm actually excited.
Right, and it's not a book.
Which is, you almost got me to spit take.
Oh man, I wish that had happened.
Oh jeez. Yeah, unkindness to the extreme. But yeah, so we both like the way you and I ended up meeting in the first place to start working together was through a Star Wars game, and so we both really like the Star Wars universe, and this is a perfect opportunity to kind of discuss it. And we're kind of late to the party a little bit here, but we needed to get through that final book. Like, we needed that closure at least. And so now we're going to talk about Kenobi season. Well, I don't know how many seasons they're going to end up being, but the Kenobi, the currently only Kenobi season, but episodes 1 through 3. And then, I don't know, I'm guessing at some point we could split these up and like put the like kind of segmented clips on YouTube as well. I don't really know.
Yeah, we can totally do that.
Something like that. I don't really know what to expect from all this, but I do know that Sarah came up with a really cool overlay for us to use, and it's just not quite ready. The tech isn't there yet for us, guys. We'll get it figured out. Right. But for now, we're using the old stuff. And so, you know, over time, I think one of the cool things for me is like on YouTube, at least, like it's going to start being a little more visual, and it's not just going to be just us sitting there talking. We should hopefully also have at least, you know, like some video clips or some pictures or something.
Yeah. I think we can add to it once we get all the issues sorted. It'll be good. Yeah,
I'm really excited for this switch, Sarah. This will be a lot of fun.
Okay, so you kind of mentioned it, but we're going to go over the first 3 episodes today, just because we're a little bit behind, and then we'll probably just stick to 1 episode each the rest of the episodes that we put out.
Yes, hopefully that will happen that way. Yeah, that's the intention. Yeah, this is exciting. And so before we begin, just want to remind you guys to go join our Discord server if you haven't already. It should be linked in, you know, video description or show notes or whatever medium that you guys are, whatever platform you guys are consuming this from. And I I don't think we've done it yet, but we need to. We'll create like a chat room for just the Kenobi discussion.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
And actually, why don't we put up a spoilers section as well, so people can talk about the latest one, even if we haven't seen it yet or done an episode yet. People can still have a place to discuss the latest and newest.
That's a good idea.
Thanks.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Oh, I might do it too. I'm not telling you you have to do it. Let's have Bowdy do it.
Yeah, somebody can do it. One of the three of us will do it.
Yeah, someone will do it. So yeah, join our Discord server and follow us on all the different things and stuff.
Yeah. All right. Shall we hop into it?
Yes, let's hop into it. Yeah, so gosh, well, first episode, like overall, like your starting reaction to it, like, well, actually just going into it in the first place, Sarah, what were your thoughts? Like, what there's a lot of expectations here, it seems like, for the Kenobi.
So I think I went into it probably in a weird situation, because I feel like I was probably one of the only people who went into it not knowing a lot about what the series was going to entail. So like I obviously knew it was Kenobi, of course, and I knew that Hayden Christensen was coming back as Lord Vader, Darth Vader, and that was it.
Yeah,
that's all I knew, and I was like, okay, cool.
Very good.
Just walk into this. So after watching the first episode, I was completely shocked with the turn they took. Like I didn't expect the storyline to go that way. I expected more Luke.
Okay, I guess that makes sense,
right? Like I think that was just my natural thought process.
Well, and Luke is in the trailer, like the entire scene with Luke in the first, like, that we've seen at all, actually, is it was just in the trailer,
right?
Which is a little misleading. It's like, hey, look, there's Luke, and in reality it's like, there is Luke, and that's all you see of him. You've already seen everything about Luke, so
right, and then he's gone, at least for now.
Yeah. So I felt, was this more important to you than like the Book of Boba Fett? Like going into it, were you, I don't know, more invested emotionally or something? I don't know how to exactly frame it. Like, were you more excited about this than Boba Fett?
I was more excited about this, and I think I was more excited about it only because Book of Boba Fett to me was a new story. Like it does, have characters that already exist and everything, but it was a new story, whereas I feel like for this, it is a story that's taking place in a certain time, and it's around such an important time in like the Star Wars universe, that I knew it would need to be done right. And I think it was just hyped so much as well that really helped build the excitement for it.
That makes sense. Well, so I feel like, so Boba Fett, yes, he's a movie character, but like kind of not really. Like he's, how many lines, how many minutes of actual like screen time did he have in the movies? Like minimal, right? I mean, really just a pretty minor character that the fandom has been like, has just blown up, and they love him so much. It's like he had more dialogue in episode 2 than he had in episodes 5 and 6, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly it, right? Whereas Kenobi is huge.
These are the movie characters. These are, I mean, this is like having a show with Luke, like as the main character. Really, like they're as important to their own movies as Luke is to his. Like, they are central to this. I mean, really, if you look at the Star Wars saga, it's really more of like a saga about Darth Vader. Like it's almost his legacy more than anything else. in all of it. Like he even in a lot of ways dominates episodes 7, 8, and 9, just because of Kylo's fixation on him.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And so like it looks like he's going to be a really important part of it. At the very least, he's a really important part in Kenobi's mind. I will say, so I knew going into this, I did know a few more plot points. I knew that Obi-Wan was going to be a little bit more beat down and everything. And I did feel like this was more important to me. It's like, I did enjoy Book of Boba Fett, but people who are whining and complaining really hard about that show need to realize the scope of like, all it really is Mandalorian season 2.5. Right. And like, we get to know some more stuff about both. Like, it's like free content. This one, like, we don't have to be emotionally invested in that. In this one though, and then on the Kenobi one, I have to be like, the stakes are way higher in my mind. If it sucks, I'm gonna be pissed. If Book of Boba Fett sucked, I'd still just be like, I don't care. Like, right, we got to see some more Star Wars. It's cool they're making Star Wars stuff.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. And I think that's part of the reason why, like, I remember talking to you about this. I'd heard forever ago that Kenobi was supposed to be a movie, and then it got changed. And I don't know if it was changed. I don't know what the actual reasoning is, but you know that if that was the case, and they've now changed it to this series, they are doing their damnedest to make sure it doesn't disappoint people, because whatever you're feeling, emotionally invested, knowing that the stakes are higher, they are feeling that too.
Oh yeah, I mean, they can't afford to mess this up. They can afford Book of Boba Fett to, of course it's not great if they spend a bunch of money, they don't get a good return, get a good reaction. But like this one, if it's a disaster, it becomes a full-on disaster for Star Wars in general.
Right. Okay, so all of that being said, what did you think of the first episode then overall, knowing that you went into it with having it at like a higher stake and emotionally invested?
Sure. So all right, first off, I think my very favorite part, the most unexpected and delightful part for me, was actually not even about Kenobi. It was about seeing Leia.
Yeah.
And she is so spicy. Like, she's so, like she lets people have it. And it's such a perfect little microcosm of what she becomes later, 8 years later, whatever.
She is so well cast. Well cast. And which is funny because you and I have also had this conversation about child actors. And I personally find that I give them a little bit more of a break, because
you should.
Right? Like, they don't have the experience, they're learning, they're kids, like, it's all of these factors. She is phenomenal.
She did such a good job. I was like, I'm sure it's just like the dad in me. I was like, I'm proud of her.
She's so good though. Like, I didn't feel, like sometimes you watch like a child actor and you're like, oh, this was a little corny, or like, it didn't feel like that.
Sandstorms are very, very dangerous.
Right. Right. So I mean, it just didn't feel like it was corny. Like, I was like, this kid can act.
Yeah, she sold me for sure. I was, and she picked up Leia's mannerisms so well. It's just like, oh, she's totally gonna be like that when she's older, and she is, and it's so good.
Yeah.
So that was unexpected and exciting. Like, I don't know how I would have liked it without her, but I think she's an essential component. I think the other really important element, then I'll ask you what your initial thoughts are, but so Obi-Wan is all beat down and sad here, which is very different from how he is in episode 4. Like, in episode 4, he's just like this chipper old man who like has practiced making crate dragon sounds to scare sand people, and like, but he's got all these cool lies prepared for Luke and all this stuff. But like clearly something shifted, and it makes sense that he would be beat down here. At first I was concerned though, actually, because I haven't been shy about my opinion about in episode 7. I liked some of episode 7, but I hated what they did to Han Solo's character of making him like this deadbeat. Like he can't even pay his debts to criminals,
right?
And he's like abandoned his kid. He's like, oh, Snoke, like it's almost like the other parent has moved in kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm not his parent anymore. Snoke is. Like, I'm absolved of responsibility. And like, he's still a fun character in 7, but I wanted him to be heroic. What's so wrong with having heroic people? And like, why do they have to just be beat down? Just because some people in life get beat down by life, not everyone does. And Han Solo is bigger than that. And I was worried, I was concerned that Kenobi was going to have the same treatment.
Okay, when you learned that he was going to be more defeated in it.
Yeah, like I'm like, I don't want a sad Kenobi. Like, what, and he's treating everyone like he's lost. I think that's more authentic than Han Solo turning into a pathetic loser. Though I think that it's like Kenobi just killed his best friend, his whole family, which his whole Jedi family, he's a Jedi master, so he's supposed to be looking at, he's the dad of the family in a way,
right?
And they've all been slaughtered, and he's just like, I'm gonna watch some random Force sensitive kid. That's gonna be my excuse,
right,
for just hiding in shame.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's more authentic. So anyways, I'm sorry, I rambled for a while. That's my initial thought. I was concerned about that. They pulled it off a little better than I thought, though. What are your thoughts initially?
Okay, so I actually really like that you brought that up, because my initial thought was that I liked seeing him beat down. I thought this was a really good, like, different side to him. And when you realize like what's been going on, and it's been 10-ish years, give or take, you realize that he not only, I almost feel like it is more impactful that he's beat down in that case, because it's been 10 years and he's still kind of hiding in shame, like you said, and beating himself up for this, and just so like sullen. That and it makes it more dire, in my opinion. Like, it makes the stakes higher and it makes the situation more dark, and he's trying to survive, but he's also just like, the spark, everything is gone essentially. So I liked seeing that, and I thought he pulled it off really well. And I thought it also just made sense for the story. Like, he's not going to be happy with what just happened, or not just happened, because it's been 10 years. He's not going to be happy with the outcome. And I don't know if he would ever be able to move past that, because I feel like he probably feels like a massive failure. You kind of see that. What I really enjoyed, which isn't related really to the storyline, but they had the recap of the prequels, so you immediately like remember, because I've only seen the prequels a handful of times. Qui-Gon is the one that is like, oh yeah, like, make sure you train him, make sure you right. So now he's let his master down, and he's let Anakin down, he's let Padme, like, you have all of these people that he's let down. You would feel like such a failure. Of course you're going to go and hide out and just spend the rest of your life in misery while you watch out for this kid.
Sure. So okay, he's miserable, and so I think the thing that I like about how he, like, it's not just so, Leia gets kidnapped and all that. And so yeah, he has to go and save her. That's fine. That's a plot vehicle, really, to get him to actually do something. But I think that the nice thing about it is it's not just her fate, because we know that she's going to be, relatively fine,
right,
eventually. Despite the fact that she loses her planet and all this stuff, but we know that she's going to physically be fine, and she'll be unkidnapped at some point, dekidnapped. And so we know that. So if it's just a story about him adventuring off traipsing off to go rescue her, like, who cares? Show me a different Jedi doing, like, killing people. I don't care, it doesn't need to be Kenobi, but this increases the stakes. It broadens the total scope of things, so that we see Kenobi as, like, in a way, it's his saving, that, like, he's saving himself in this.
right.
It's not that he is saving her. She's already been saved in a lot of ways. What I want to know is how he pulls out of the ruins of his mind.
Yep.
And he doesn't even know, like, I guess that's merging into the next episode, but, like, he takes more mental blows, and he, like, gets worse before he gets better, I think.
Right. Well, and that's a good point. What you're saying about him pulling him out of himself out of this funk, because it's exactly that. You're seeing this like valley in his, this ultimate low basically in his life. And there's this massive time gap between episode 4. So it's like, well, how do you get to be that man at the start of episode 4, right? So, like, what happens? And then exactly what you said, leading into episode 2, he doesn't even know what's the whole story. He doesn't know what's going on, and it just takes more mental hits.
Yeah. Well, so, gosh, and then we have the Inquisitors,
right? Yeah.
in this, and I didn't know what to think of it. Like, the fifth brother looks. I just watched it with my kids. The Rebels episode where fifth brother is a main component of that, and I guess I won't spoil what his end results are, but he looks pretty different, actually, than what he looks like in Kenobi.
Right. I mean, a few of the Grand Inquisitor also looks different, so
sure, though he has the same, like, red check marks on his head, at least.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he has a few identifying marks, and I guess the fifth brother does have a cool hat. So
he does have a cool hat. The fifth brother, just based off, like, the trailer and stuff, I kind of just figured he would be like a foot soldier. Like, that was the vibe that I kind of got from him. And I'm pleasantly surprised that he has a bigger role. He seems like a much more important character.
Well, yeah, like, you didn't, like, in Rebels, you never got the picture that he is, and maybe he's been demoted since then or whatever, but, like, you never get the feeling that he's kind of high in the hierarchy,
right,
of this Inquisition. One of the phrases they keep using throughout this series is, "I'm going to get what I deserve,"
right,
which is very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a interesting choice of words.
Well, I always shy away from using the word deserve, honestly, because it's like, who can really tell what you like? If I say I deserve something, like, how can I really judge that? That's just me being egotistical. And if I tell you deserve something, have I really truly taken the totality of your circumstances in, and am I able to actually administer that to, like, it's not, but like, deserve it, it's a very selfish word, I feel like,
right,
in a lot of ways. Like, it shows ultimate judgment. Of, like, oh, he got what he deserved. And so they're really, I mean, it makes sense. There are all these, there's these force wielders who they could never, like, get promoted past Vader ever, but they're still thirsting for that power that, you know, the Darksiders tend to have. It's just an interesting dynamic that they all have.
Yeah, I didn't think they would be as important as they are. Like, I honestly thought Vader would be the more important one in the storyline. And I think he is,
Sure.
but they're highlighting the Inquisitors really well, and they don't seem boring. Like, I want to know more about them and their backstories and what's going on and how they got there. And
Sure.
like you were saying, there's like that hierarchy, and it's like, well, how does that hierarchy work? So yeah, they're very interesting.
I thought so. So man, one of the, like, I think my favorite scene, actually, other than the various Leia scenes, which are all pretty much delightful, and my kids actually quote her. They say, "I'd rather be digested by a Jacko beast."
It's a good quote.
Yeah, it's fun. Actually, Jacko beasts exist. I looked it up on, you know, Wikipedia. It's actually a thing. Like a Jacko beast is
like a real thing.
Well, a real thing in Star Wars.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it's not just a name that they're like, oh, what's the name of a rat? Let's fabricate some random creature. Like, it's actually has a place in the lore. It's like in comic books and stuff. So, I don't know. It's a nice little detail. But other than the Leia parts, I think my favorite scene from the first one was the very start where Order 66 is happening, and there's the younglings, and it like breaks your heart, really. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, it's very emotional, and like the teacher is doing such a good job of protecting them, and you know, just dies at the very last, but saves them so that they can escape. And you know, it's
so, anything that starts, because I Bad Batch did this too, where it starts with Order 66. I'm like, this is just so heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It really is. I had all the chills the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a crazy way to start it. And then, of course, there's the speculation, because one of them was, you know, a Black female, and, you know, and then we have Reva, who's a new Inquisitor. It seems like maybe she could be one of them, but you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And it's almost
kind of
like
hint at it.
It's almost like, what's the point of showing that scene, really?
Right.
Unless they had, you know, obviously a lot of the things in Kenobi's life surround that and everything, but
well, and I think drawing the conclusion that she was one of the younglings also helps paint why she has the skills that she has and why she knows so much information about Vader.
Right. So I don't know. I don't want to cut this first one too short, but I mean, we've got a lot to discuss in episode 2 as well, and 3.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to just, like, is there anything else from episode 1 that you want to discuss?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we can always just, you know, kind of retrace our steps.
The only thing I will say is Tika was hilarious. The Jawa. The Jawa. He was so funny. Like the little bit about what did he say?
Cleaning is extra, costs
extra.
Yeah,
he was like, I think he said, I need a new processor or something like that. And he just grabs it.
Right. Well, yeah, he's like, oh, I noticed that, like, you have some problems with your vaporator or something like that. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm missing the part for it. And like, it turns out the Jawa just stolen it. And he's like, if you're gonna sell me back parts of mine that you stole, at least could you at least clean it?
Right. And he's like, cleaning's extra.
Cleaning costs extra.
I was like, it was just so well done. I loved it. Anyway, that's the only other thing that I really stood out. Okay, so let's talk about episode 2, because this one was I think this is when you really start realizing like how things are going.
Right. Well, like, that Kenobi's going to go eventually get to, he's going to leave to go help, because why make a show if he's not going to? Like, it made me sick. Oh, I just thought of something. Okay. So we have to rewind just a tiny bit.
Okay.
So, all right. Throughout all of the Vader lore, it's like when Ahsoka confronts him, there's no chance of her actually like bringing him back to the light side. Like it's basically Vader has to have his son, or maybe in a weird alternate universe, maybe Leia could have brought him back, but like he had to have someone who's like blood kin kind of to bring him back from the dark side. Like no one else could possibly do it. Like Kenobi can't do it, Ahsoka can't do it, nobody can bring him back from the dark side. And in a way, you can see a microcosm of that with Kenobi, because he's just so beat down. Another Jedi shows up and he's like, no, like go screw yourself. Like, I'm not going to help you. We're done. Like only something really fundamentally important to him could actually bring him kind of back into action, like activate him in a way. And it's not going to be some random Jedi. Like it has to be something even stronger, even though it was a tragic situation. Like it had to be something. It had to be one of Vader's kids too, in a way.
Right. To
redeem him.
Oh, that's a good thought.
Just something that occurred to me.
Yep.
Something worth thinking about, at least, because no one else could do it. It's the only things he cares about are Vader's kids, and
right.
The only thing Vader cares about, as it turns out.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Okay, so let's talk about episode 2.
Yes.
Man, we got so much. I feel like we got so much in this episode. So obviously,
this one was actually shorter than the first one. But
but it felt like there was more going on in this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the other one. People complain about how boring and dull the first one was, and I'm like, I needed them to show me, not tell me. Like if Ben Kenobi had like a monologue, he's like, oh, you have no idea how boring my life has been. And like I wouldn't. I'm like, great, like quit complaining. Like I don't, but seeing it, like every day he's at the meat processing place, and every day he watches people being, just like screwed out of their money, and he sees just all this terrible stuff, and he can't, his life is so abysmal. He does this thing and he does this thing and he wanders listlessly, and the Inquisitors come, but he doesn't care because he's not going to fight them anyways, and he doesn't even have his lightsabers. He can't talk to his master Qui-Gon. All this stuff, and I needed to see that to feel what he was feeling. And so I think episode 1 was well paced. Episode 2, though, it's like, all right, now he's moving. Let's go. We're moving. Let's go. Let's see all the craziness.
Right. So yeah, I agree with you. So he obviously is going after Leia, like you said, because he's not going to not go after her. And there was a lovely little cameo by Tamara Morrison.
Tamara Morrison, yep.
Plays the old vet clone there.
Buy a veteran a meal or something like that. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that was a nice little Easter egg. But yeah, he's obviously looking for her, and the Inquisitors are looking for him. And this is also where you see it a little bit in episode 1 as well, that Reva doesn't really line up with what the rest of the Inquisitors are trying to do.
Yeah, she doesn't get along with them.
Yeah, she's fixated on Kenobi, and they're just hunting Jedi. So, that's this whole thing, right? Like that's why Leia's kidnapped. She's trying to trap him. Yeah, there were a lot of humorous moments in this episode too, which is interesting because this one felt darker than the first, if that's possible.
Sure.
I'm blanking on his name, the fake Jedi, the con artist Jedi.
Yeah, I don't remember his name either.
He was humorous.
Oh, he was great. I feel like I've seen him act, like I feel like he's a bigger name actor actually. He's not just like a bit, he's not like, oh, I've been in one thing and it's Kenobi. Like it's not like that.
No, I've seen him in stuff as well. I just can't remember what.
Right. Yeah, maybe he used a Jedi mind trick on us to maybe we're concealing his identity for his own safety. We actually know it. We actually do know his name, guys. We just don't want to let anyone know to keep him safe. But yeah, he's fun. Yeah, they do a good job of, Leia's always, she gets mouthy and everything too. Real quick, before I forget though, I wanted to make you predict, and I'll predict as well. Do you think so Kenobi he's trying to talk to Qui-Gon, not successful. At the end of this season, it seems like maybe they're setting it up for maybe a Qui-Gon cameo.
Right?
Do you think we'll actually see Qui-Gon? Do you think he'll talk to Ket? Do you think we'll actually it seems like we have to hear from him at least. But do you think Liam Neeson is going to make an appearance?
Well, that's what I was going to say is, if you're asking, like, are we physically going to see him or just hear his voice?
We're going to see Force Ghost Qui-Gon.
I feel like you have to. Like, the stakes are so high in this. It almost feels cheap to only have it be his voice.
Yeah, I feel like he has to be. I really hope he is.
Right?
I mean, or like otherwise, it would be such a stupid tease if we don't even hear from him. I'd be like, can you just stop? Like that would have been. I will be so let down. And yet, if they actually do show Qui-Gon, people will be like, "Oh, fan service, so it's stupid."
Right.
We'll just hear from that for that end of the fandom, but.
Just enjoy it.
For me, I know I'm like, they did it for the fans and I'm a fan. Yeah, that was cool. So
yeah, exactly. So do you think we'll see him?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any rumors or anything. I just from my own, it seems like you have to. I don't know. I hope so.
I was initially thinking you were going to ask if I thought Kenobi would be able to finally talk to him, like, and it be successful in that. And I yes, my answer is yes to that. But seeing him is a whole other thing. Anyway.
Yeah. So you're right. Though this episode is kind of funny as well. You were talking about the humor. And Star Wars has always done a good job of that, actually, of making things light. I mean, so does Marvel. Like a lot of these like nerd pursuits, like all these movies, like lots of action and good humor in the middle.
Yeah, and you see it, like they're really good at sprinkling it in through character personality. Like you were saying, we get Leia being a little bit saucy, and like
Kenobi's like, you don't need those gloves. Okay, we'll take the gloves.
Yeah, and she's just putting them on, or he's telling her the plan and like their identities and who they are and where they're from, and she's like, grandfather, maybe, like,
right,
it's just like the most
grandfather,
like the most saucy little thing. So she's very humorous. But yeah, I think also we see a lot more conflict in Kenobi in this episode as well. Like he is doing his best to protect Leia, and you can tell that he's there because he definitely has been guilted into going there, and is like, okay, well, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna get her, and he's gonna get in and get out, and no Jedi business. Like, let's just go home
back to my cave.
Yeah, he just wants to get it over with. and you can see that he's like struggling in terms of like controlling Leia and not, you know, keeping his connection to the Force suppressed or however he's doing it. But then also later on having to reach for it, like he needs to be able to use the Force later.
Right. Well, yeah, you wonder, it's like, can you just automatically use the Force after you haven't used it for years? And it's implied that he hasn't. Who knows? Maybe he has been, but I mean, it kind of feels like, no, he's not going to use the Force.
Right.
Or he's decided not to, like a self-imposed exile from it. So you had a moment. I had a moment of like, oh shoot, is Leia going to be okay? Like, obviously she's going to live, but like when he goes to grab her with the Force and save her life, I was like, is this going to be how close to a disaster is this going to be?
Right. Which, I mean, when you watch the episode back a second time, you can see that they were like foreshadowing that moment, because she's telling him earlier on, she's like, make me float. Jedi, I hear that's what Jedis can do, make me float. So you know that while you're watching him struggle to make that connection, you know that he's going to do it, and he's going to, you know, make her float. So
right. Oh, so I think it's interesting too. So he doesn't use his lightsaber at all in this episode. He uses his blaster, and you know, he used to, you know, he always sees like the blasters as like a lesser weapon, a weapon that lesser beings use. You know, like, okay, like some people use lightsabers and they're cool, and everyone else uses blasters.
Well, and it's also interesting because he has his lightsaber with him and he's just choosing not to touch it.
Right. I mean, you'd think that would get a ton of attention too, but you also, I think it's really interesting. He calls it uncivilized to use a blaster in other movies and in mediums. You know, it's uncivilized, and he shows himself to be uncivilized by using a blaster like really proficiently. Right. Actually.
Yeah. No, it's interesting when you compare it like to other aspects. But it makes sense though, because what's his other option? Like you said, if he uses the lightsaber, it's going to draw a lot of attention. Even if it didn't draw a lot of attention though, then he's not suppressing that Jedi, you know, side of him. So it makes sense that he would lean towards the blaster instead.
Agreed.
So
no, it's cool. Gosh, we should probably move on from this episode too if we're gonna keep going.
Yes. But okay, so the only other thing that I think we need to point out in this episode, obviously, is that Reva, you know, is hunting for him and going rogue. And she's the one who lets him know that Vader's still, you know, Anakin is Vader and he's still alive. And kind of taunts him with it too. She's like, oh, you didn't know?
I know. Well, and it strengthens the idea that she's from the Jedi Temple, because not a ton of people know. Like it's a very closely guarded secret that like if you've read the Thrawn books, you know, like that like Thrawn figures out who Vader is because he's met Anakin before and stuff, but Vader refuses to even acknowledge that was even a thing. He's like, nope. You know, and Thrawn's like, well, I don't want to just get choked to death, so I'm just not going to force him to acknowledge it. But you know, he's tactical about it, like as he will be. But at the end of the day, like no one is supposed to know that Anakin was Vader, or Vader was Anakin. And the fact that she's just, you know, spouting it out to Obi-Wan, she's one of the very few people in the galaxy who knows that at this point.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And then she just stabs the Grand Inquisitor.
Yeah, which, I mean, so many people have said things like, you know, I can't believe are they really just like decanonizing rebels or whatever, because that's where the Inquisitor is supposed to die. And I guess for me, Well, first off, I read an interview with him, and he's
Mhm.
talking about like what other things would they do with that character.
Mhm.
And it's like he clearly intends on potentially like playing Grand Inquisitor again. Like that's not the end of this Grand Inquisitor. Not to mention, I mean, it's a very like Maul had his legs chopped off and got dumped down like this big garbage chute. Like,
Right.
and he came back and was in a ton of different things. Like, you really think the Grand Inquisitor can't just take a stab and live?
Well, and it's also one of those things where I think at the end of the day, I look at it and I'm like, Favreau and Filoni wouldn't just like casually be like, nah, like he's gonna die now, like,
Right.
and just exactly what you said, decanonize another storyline. They're so good at making these stories. We've seen them do with Bad Batch and Clone Wars and Mando and Book of Boba, where they tie in all of these other storylines. Like that's what they do. So yeah, I don't think he's dead.
That's fair. Yeah, I would be shocked if he was dead. And it feels so cheap if they're like, he has a twin brother.
Right.
like if this isn't a soap opera. I don't need that.
No, I don't think they're gonna do that.
Okay, so episode 2, I mean, there's so much we didn't discuss, but okay, one last question then.
Okay.
Do you think that we're going to see the clone again? Do you think that Tamara Morrison's character, because it looks like he's from the 501st, actually, from his armor markings, like 501st being Vader's clone group.
I think we will. I'd be shocked if we didn't.
I guess we could go either way, but
we could.
I would like. It seems like that clone probably recognized Kenobi. You have to kind of think he did after Kenobi gave him some money.
And like, okay, so maybe it was just a cameo and just like a little bit of quote unquote fan service to have him there. But it would be pretty cool if it wasn't, and if it's somehow tied back into the storyline.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I keep saying one more thing. The other
There's so much.
Well, so this is something that someone had to tell me about, but the little kid in the fake Jedi helps. So I've always really loved the Rogue Squadron books. Those are decanonized. They're legends, and Corran Horn is the main character in them, though, and he's he eventually learns that he has the Force. He's Force sensitive, and all this stuff. His background is like as a cop, basically on Corellia, and all this stuff. Like he's a good pilot, but so very important character to me for a lot of different reasons. But he's decanonized. I'm like, all right, fine. They're finally making the audiobooks non-abridged instead of like the 18-hour books that they are. They had them like down to like an hour and a half. It's like you can't even. It's not worth even listening to. But so that they're coming out anyways. The little kid he helped is called Corran, and his mom is the same name as Corran's mom in the books, and they're being sent to Corellia, and he's a Force sensitive, like and it's the right age to like time frame and everything. It's so I think they made Corran Horn canon,
which is huge. Like they're just and this is what I mean, like what I was saying about people thinking Grand Inquisitor might be dead. Like they're so good at drawing these little things in. Like you just said that he's the right age, he's going to the right spot, it's the right names, like it's the right part of the timeline. Like it's so good.
Yeah, well, I think it also sets the stage for a potentially like in the old legends, which it's going to be different now, of course, but at some point, Corran Horn does attend Luke's Jedi Academy.
So this would be different now.
Well, it does seem like it may be setting the stage for us to see Corran Horn at Luke's Jedi Academy, because we saw that kind of being built in Book of Boba Fett.
Right. Yes, that's right. Oh.
Seems cool though.
So overall, first 2 episodes, good.
Yeah, I really liked them.
Yeah.
They were really good. They set it up. Of course, you want more action kind of than they gave the first 2, or more. I don't know about action exactly, but it's like Kenobi. Can you actually use your lightsaber at some point, please?
Right. I actually found myself in the second one in particular, like wanting it to be a longer episode.
Sure. I mean, I'd like all of them to be longer.
Wouldn't we all?
Right.
Yeah, no, I think they're doing a really good job with it.
Yeah, I have no complaints so far.
Me neither. Cool. Any other thoughts about episode 2?
I don't think so. Should we just call it good then?
Yeah, so we'll do 3 and 4 together next episode.
Right. I think we were saying we were going to do 1 through 3 earlier, but
yeah, we don't want to rush it.
Yeah, we don't want to rush these things. It's been fun though. This Kenobi stuff. I'm really interested to see where they go, because they've made it. They've done a good job of making it meaningful, despite the fact that we know where everyone ends up. There's still a lot of tension of like, oh man, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
which is, it's nice because sometimes you're like, well, all right, I know that you live, so I don't care.
And it's the same thing kind of when they did Rogue One, like, you know, they were all going to die.
I didn't know that.
No?
I must just be stupid. I knew that the guy who was piloting Rogue 5 or Red 5 was going to die, because that's Luke's X-Wing, but
fair. I don't know. I think it was just one of those things, but yeah, it's the same idea. Like here, you know what the end outcome is for all of these characters, but you're still invested in their story.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's it. It's over.
That's it. So we'll do 3 and 4 next episode, and that'll be it.
Yeah, come hang out with us on Discord, guys.
Yep. All right. And then on that note, thank you everybody for listening or watching. May you always find water and shade.
Right. Kenobi especially needs that.
Yeah.